I'm Tracy Sabol. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, ceasefire dissolution. China and Russia veto an Israel-Hamas peace deal at the UN as Secretary Blinken meets with Netanyahu in Israel. We have the latest. Trump and Truth Social. The former president's social media merger is approved, which could mean billions of dollars, but can he secure his bond? We break it down. Healing and accountability. Today marks 10 years since Pope Francis created the Vatican office tasked with combating clergy abuse and protecting minors. Hear how the commission has worked to safeguard the church this past decade. Plus, faith and freedom. We dive into what American voters are saying about the importance of religion in the White House and how it may affect this upcoming presidential election. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us. Our top story tonight, the House barely passed the more than $1 trillion government funding bill, doing their part to avoid a partial shutdown at midnight tonight. But it could cost Speaker Mike Johnson his job after only 5 months. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us now with the latest. Eric.
Good evening, Tracy. The only thing I can say is quite a wild scene on the House floor during the government funding vote. Republican and Freedom Caucus member Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia filed a motion to oust Speaker Mike Johnson. She tells me that the Speaker hasn't lived up to his word, and Republicans, who are in the majority, a slim majority, need someone to stand up for them, secure the border, and protect life.
This is a betrayal of the American people. This is a betrayal of Republican voters. And the bill that we were forced to vote on forced Republicans to choose between funding to pay our soldiers and in doing so, funding late-term abortion.
She calls the bill a wish list for Democrats and the White House.
And I do not wish to inflict pain on our conference and to throw the House in chaos. But this is basically a warning, and it's time for us to go through the process, take our time, and find a new Speaker of the House that will stand with Republicans and our Republican majority.
The move has members on both sides concerned.
They're not going to get a speaker that's not going to end up in the same place, because that's the reality of what we have when you have a slim majority.
It's just continuing chaos. I mean, we have been through, for the last year and a half, a House that has wasted so much time, that has no leadership.
Prior to the vote, a fiery news conference was held by members of the House Freedom Caucus.
This bill, if passes, will likely determine who controls the House of Representatives. And this bill will most certainly determine who the next speaker is.
They warned a vote for the trillion-dollar measure is a vote for the Biden administration's open border policies and reckless government spending.
Anybody who votes for this bill today owns every stinking bit of it. They own the destruction of the American economy with all these regulations killing families. They own the wide open borders.
It's a 184-year-old tradition to have the mace when the House is in session. Take the mace down, cut the lights off, and say, we will not come back until you stop the invasion at the border.
But Democrats defend the bill as it's written, especially its border security provisions.
It adds the largest number of Border Patrol agents at 22,000 agents. It adds CBP officers at the bridges so they can stop fentanyl. It adds support staff so they can support the agents.
House Republicans who I talked to say that they don't want a new speaker. They are concerned that this could affect Republicans' chances of keeping the House in November. By the way, the massive bill now heads off to the Senate, where it's still unclear if members are going to be able to bring any amendments and pass the bill on time. Tracy?
So, Eric, could we really see another new speaker?
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene does say that she has the support of others to replace Speaker Johnson. Other Republicans are hopeful cooler heads will prevail during the break, and she says that she wants to that she will not take back this motion to vacate the speakership. But the Georgia Congresswoman told me that she does plan to move ahead with the vote because she believes that Speaker Johnson is not standing up for Republican values. I should also mention that Republican Congressman Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin, who announced last month that he would not seek re-election, has decided to step down April 19th. meaning Republicans even have a slimmer chance, only a one-seat majority once he leaves. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Well, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. shares Israel's goal of defeating Hamas, but he warns a major military ground operation in Rafah is not the way to do it. The Secretary traveled to Israel to meet directly with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. However, Netanyahu rebuffed American calls to halt plans for a ground invasion. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told Secretary Blinken he greatly appreciates the U.S. standing with Israel in its war against Hamas and recognizes the need to evacuate the civilian population in war zones. But on Rafah, the two clearly do not see eye to eye. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken sits down one-on-one with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu as public differences over Gaza intensify. In Tel Aviv, Blinken trying to convince Netanyahu and Israel's war cabinet an invasion of Rafah could make an already disastrous humanitarian crisis in Gaza even worse.
We really were focused on three things: the hostage negotiations, humanitarian assistance, and Rafah.
But on Rafah, Netanyahu was unambiguous, saying after the meeting,
I also said that we have no way to defeat Hamas without going into Rafah and eliminating the rest of the battalions there. And I told him that I hope we will do it with the support of the USA, but if we have to, we will do it alone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blinken also took time to meet with protesters outside his hotel who were demanding the release of hostages held by Hamas. From the White House press briefing room, this assessment.
We believe that a major ground offensive is a mistake. We believe that it will be, as I've said many times and you've heard from other officials, a disaster, certainly for those 1.5 million refugees in Rafah.
Also today, Russia and China veto a U.S.-sponsored UN resolution calling for an immediate and sustained ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield blasted Russia for putting politics over progress.
Russia, who has carried out an unprovoked war on its neighbor, has the audacity and the hypocrisy to throw stones when it lives in a glass house itself.
And while diplomats and ambassadors seek a ceasefire, Israeli soldiers keep fighting back against Hamas. Next week, senior Israeli officials, including the defense minister, arrive here in Washington to continue discussions over how to defeat Hamas and ensure Israel's long-term security. Netanyahu agreed to send the delegation in a phone call with President Biden. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
All right, for more about the situation in the Middle East, we want to bring in Mary Ellen O'Connell. She is a professor of law at the University of Notre Dame and of International Peace Studies at the university's Kroc Institute, and she joins us now from London. Mary Ellen, thank you for being with us. Prime Minister Netanyahu, he challenged Blinken on the Rafah operation, that is, saying that Israel can go it alone if need be. Unpack this for us, if you would. What do you think he means by this? Could this be an ultimatum?
Well, let's begin with Secretary Blinken's position, which I absolutely support. It is imperative that every country, everyone with any influence on Israel, do what they can to save the desperate people of Rafah. An invasion of Rafah will do untold damage beyond unspeakable damage that's already been done. 1 million people are packed into that small town, so many of them children. They will be decimated. This will not help Israel and already Israel has set itself back as a nation that we can admire. So far, Secretary Blinken was doing Prime Minister Netanyahu a favor by saying, hold off, bring humanitarian aid, let us find another way to resolve the terrible problem, and I'm not underplaying that, of Hamas. The United States now, if Israel will not listen to this good counsel, this wise position by our government, we have to consider our own complicity in what are now war crimes and what the International Court of Justice has already said long before this planned operation against Rafah were plausible acts of genocide. The U.S. cannot be part of that.
We have about a minute left or so, Professor, but I do want to get to this. Blinken warned that if Israel proceeds into Gaza, it does risk isolating itself. Your thoughts on that? Do you think that's true? And if so, what impact would that have on Israel?
Honestly, Israel is already isolated. Israel only has one strong friend still standing by, still delivering large amounts of weapons and other support, and that's the United States. If we withdraw, and I think we have to after what Secretary Blinken said, if the operation in Rafah goes forward without food, water, medicine being shipped as in huge quantities into Gaza, the United States cannot stand by and have its own position so defied and be complicit in the deaths of these innocent children, women, old people, and men.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. Professor, thank you so much for your time and insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
The clock is ticking as Monday's deadline looms for former President Donald Trump to come up with $464 million. That is the bond money that he needs following a civil fraud trial. The big question, can he come up with the cash in time? Tara Mergener is here now with an update. So, Tara, what's the latest on this?
Absolutely, Tracy. Yeah, this is a big one. The case is the former president's most expensive legal battle yet, but he claims he has the money now to post the $500 million bond.
They're trying to take us out.
But through his Truth Social Friday morning, Trump said this: "Through hard work, talent, and luck, I currently have almost $500 million in cash, a substantial amount of which I intended to use in my campaign for president." Donald Trump owes New York $454 million after losing the state's civil fraud suit over his asset valuations. The former president and his legal team have appealed and requested a stay, but he still faces the March 25th deadline to post a bond covering 120% of the judgment as the appeals process plays out. No financial guarantee by Monday would mean New York's Attorney General can start collecting on the nearly $500 million verdict by seizing the presumptive GOP nominee's most valuable properties.
Forcing him to sell prized properties such as Trump Tower, iconic properties like 40 Wall Street, to pursue his appeal is manifest injustice.
For weeks now, Trump's attorneys insisted that Trump did not have the money on hand.
Trump has gone to more than 30 underwriters, more than 30 companies who have the money, who could put it up for him, and they have refused to do it.
Earlier this week, his campaign sending out a text blast calling on supporters to help him keep the state of New York's filthy hands off Trump Tower. Meanwhile, investors have approved a deal on Friday to make Truth Social a publicly traded company. The green light clears a major hurdle for a long-delayed merger that will generate a multi-billion-dollar windfall for him. However, for numerous financial and legal reasons, the deal is unlikely to solve his cash crunch.
And as for Trump's appeal, the bond could reportedly be slashed if it is granted. This judgment comes on top of the $91 million he owes in a defamation case, Tracy.
So, Tara, how easy would it be to seize Trump's assets?
Well, according to the legal experts, it's not going to be very easy at all because most of his business is made up of limited liability companies, aka LLCs, that protect personal assets from creditors and lawsuits. And Trump has more than 300 of them controlled by his trust. So, Tracy, whatever happens, it's not going to be quick and it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, we will see what happens on Monday. Tara, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Well, a stunning announcement from Kensington Palace today. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, says that she has cancer.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
Princess Kate says that she is in the early stages of treatment and is undergoing preventative chemotherapy. The 42-year-old royal said the news came as a huge shock and that she and Prince William needed time to process it for the sake of their young family. Princess Kate had been away from her royal duties following her surgery in January. The news is a devastating blow for the British monarchy. In February, Buckingham Palace announced that King Charles III was also undergoing treatment for an unspecified cancer. To Moscow now. Russia state media is reporting dozens are dead and there are more than 100 injured after a terror attack on a concert hall. Reports say gunmen in combat uniforms stormed the venue, spraying it with gunfire. An explosion rocked the Crocus City Hall, engulfing the building in flames. Details about the identities of the shooters and their motives are unknown. Well, Russia has fired off more than 60 exploding drones and 90 missiles, damaging Ukraine's largest hydroelectric plant. Russia is saying the attacks are strikes of retribution. The strikes caused power outages and killed at least 5 people. Ukrainian officials describe it as the most brutal attack against energy infrastructure since the start of the war. And we have a lot more still to come here on EWTN News Nightly, including life-saving donations. Hear the role a Catholic Church in Ukraine is playing to strengthen injured soldiers on the front lines. And 10 years since its launch, we look at the work of the Vatican office dedicated to protecting minors. Welcome back. Ukrainians lined up to give blood at a Catholic church in Kyiv this week with donations given to injured fighters on the front lines.
Many people in the East are losing limbs and are in dire need of blood. We decided to donate our blood, just as Jesus shed his blood for us, and as our defenders shed their blood, we also wanted to share.
All 33 donors gave blood at St. Nicholas Roman Catholic Church. An organizer of the event says enough blood was donated to potentially save 99 lives. The parish priest says since the invasion of Ukraine began, the church has done something good before every holiday for those affected by the war. The Haitian Bishops Conference has issued an urgent call to end the violence in the country. In a statement, the bishops said the current situation in Haiti fills them with, quote, pain and concern. They are encouraging a solution to the current crisis and a restoration of peace and security for all sons and daughters of the nation. The bishops concluded their statement by asking for the intercession of Our Lady of Perpetual Help. The controversial Bishop Emeritus of Bruges, Belgium, has been dismissed from the clerical state. Former Bishop Roger Vanelou had resigned in 2010 after admitting to repeatedly sexually abusing his nephew, who was 5 years old at the time. Vatican officials say that, quote, serious new elements had come to light, including recent testimony of a victim. This comes ahead of an expected papal visit to Belgium later this year. 10 years ago today, Pope Francis instituted the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors at the Vatican. Its purpose is to promote initiatives for protecting minors and vulnerable adults and local responsibility in the church in the wake of clergy sexual abuse. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Tonhauser spoke with Emer McCarthy, a member of the commission, to look back on their work over this past decade.
You've been there from the very beginning for 10 years. You've worked at the commission. And what were your personal highlights?
My personal highlight would have to be the work that I was very fortunate to be involved in, both in the second commission and currently, which is focused on working with people who've been impacted by abuse in the church in their childhood. And we had a working group called Working with Survivors in the second commission who spent years listening to men and women from all over the world, from various social and cultural backgrounds, to try and trace and understand from them what those key challenges were to creating spaces within our church, spaces within our communities that would encourage and allow these people to come forward, to be acknowledged, to be supported in their pursuit of justice and reconciliation.
From an insider's perspective, would you say that progress has been made also in how the church is dealing with sexual abuse and how the church is dealing also with the knowledge about cases?
As people may or may not be aware, when the Commission was established in 2014, our key mandate and competency was to advise the Holy Father, which is really everything, but it's also nothing. It wasn't a specific mandate. And I think that the first Commission struggled a little bit with that to understand how to offer this advice, in what form, for what output. In 2022, when the Holy Father reformed the Roman Curia and brought the Commission within the structure of the Roman Curia, he then gave us a very specific mandate, born, I think, of our learnings in the first 7 years, that we needed to have more specific entry points within the life of the church to be able to address the issues of case management, assistance and support to victims and survivors who come forward with disclosure, assistance and support to church leaders so they know what to do when they are faced with disclosure, assistance to communities who are impacted by news of abuse within their life. And he did so by asking us to take care of guidelines.
And a new secretary and assistant to the secretary have been named just recently?
Yes, we're very, very happy to welcome Monsignor Luis Manuel Ali Herrera. He's the Auxiliary Bishop of Bogota in Colombia. He is one of the longest serving members of the Commission, so from member to secretary. He is a psychologist. He has a wealth of expertise in how to begin that cultural change that is necessary in developing churches. He was the first person to establish in Colombia an office for the protection of minors within the Archdiocese of Bogota. He has represented the Commission throughout Latin America, particularly among other bishops, encouraging and enforcing the importance that we address this issue. So he really does understand, the challenges and the progress that needs to be made among leadership. He will be joined and supported by Teresa Kettlekamp, a United States native. She's a former colonel of the Illinois State Police Force. She was one of the people before her retirement who set up a forensics division on identifying missing children. Immense experience with regards to child protection, both in a civil society sphere, but also in a church sphere, because she led and directed, of course, the Child Protection Office at the United States Conference for Catholic Bishops for years.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And up next on EWTN News Nightly, Moral Matters will tell you what some Americans are looking for in their next president when it comes to faith life. Ahead of the 2024 presidential election, almost all Americans say it is at least somewhat important for the president to personally live a moral and ethical life. According to new data from the Pew Research Center, 94% of all Americans hold that stance. 64% of U.S. adults say it is at least somewhat important the president stands up for people with their religious beliefs. And close to half say it's at least somewhat important that the president has strong religious beliefs. And to help us break down these numbers and more is Dr. Ryan Burge, Associate Professor of Political Science at Eastern Illinois University and creator of the Substack Graphs About Religion. Ryan, welcome back. Good to have you with us again. So what do you make of these findings by Pew? I mean, were you surprised by these numbers? And also, how does it compare to your own research?
Yeah, I think the thing is the nuns are rising. We know that. I've written 2 books about it. They're 30% of Americans today. They were only 5% of Americans in 1972. Among Generation Z, over 40% are non-religious. But despite that, Americans still think religion is a good thing. If you ask questions about religious belief, 90% of Americans still believe in God at some level. I think that comes through in this data, right? We want our president to have a faith background, to represent people of faith, to have good moral character. So even though religion is fading in some ways, we have this sort of civic culture, civic religion that's so deeply embedded in America that even if half of Americans were nuns, we would probably be very unlikely to nominate or elect an atheist or agnostic president.
Yeah, Ron, let's dig into this a little bit more. I mean, how do Biden and Trump compare when it comes to how Americans view their religious beliefs?
Yeah, so it's interesting that, most Americans think that about 60% of Americans think Biden is somewhat or very religious. Amongst Trump, it's only about 30% who think he's somewhat or very religious. But if you look at the crosstabs, so if you look at just Republicans or just Democrats, Republicans think that Trump is more religious than Biden, and Democrats think that Biden is more religious than Trump. So what religion has become is basically religious in the way that I think about religion. So if you go to church every Sunday but vote for Democrats, Republicans don't see you as religious. And the opposite is happening here. So basically what's happening is religion is being seen through the lens of partisanship. That's the master identity, and everything kind of lives downstream of, are you Republican or are you a Democrat?
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to go to this. President Biden is the second Catholic president. So wondering about us Catholics, how do Catholic voters, how did they shake out in all of this?
It's important to note that Biden goes to church more than any president in at least the last 50 years. He's gone to Mass at least 100 times. But it really comes down to white Catholics are about 60% Republicans right now, 40% Democrats. Non-white Catholics are the mirrored opposite of that. About 65% of them are Democrats and 35% are Republicans. But I think Biden's got a real problem with Hispanic Catholics right now. They were solidly in his camp, and they've been sliding slowly toward the Republican side. That really might tell the story in the 2024 election.
All right, we're going to leave right there. Ryan, always great to get your insights. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Tracy Sabol. Good night, and God bless.